Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to our SPFL show. We're going to take you through match day 11. Obviously, some very good fixtures from this weekend, and we're also going to talk about the cup semi-finals. I'm joined today by Alan. Alan, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad, not too bad. I know Ian wasn't well, so I've jumped in to sort of make free a crowd.
Jump straight in here, mate. At least you've bailed us out. And we're joined by Ross as well for his debut. Ross, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm not bad. I've been better after yesterday, Alex, but yeah, I'm not bad. Thanks. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. What team is it you support, Ross?
Well, you've invited me on at the right time, haven't you? So especially spot. Yeah, I'm an Aberdeen fan. From Glasgow, but Aberdeen.
Obviously, it wasn't a good game for Aberdeen yesterday, but we'll come to them. We'll talk about the games from the league. So first of all, the first game was St Johnstone v Hearts. This was this the first game that Simo Valakari was in the stands for Hearts? For St Johnstone? I think it was his first game, wasn't it?
I actually believe that he's been in the dugout for the last three. They were talking on sports about having a run, and I think it was his third game in the dugout. He'd been in the stand for a couple of previous.
I thought actually what he'd been in the stand, right? Okay. But it was obviously a very good game yesterday. We spoke about the fact that Shanklin had a very quick opportunity to start the game off for Hearts. There was a quick break and he looked like he was going to get them on, but obviously he couldn't get the ball and he knocked it wide. But it was a cheap free kick from Boateng, and Nicky Clark almost converted it. So St Johnstone looked like the better team from the start of the game, Alan, didn't they?
They did. They started with a wee bit more confidence. Simo Valakari's been in that a wee bit longer than Neil Critchlow's been in at Hearts, and he's just got them settled down a wee bit. And there's a bit of calmness about St Johnstone that probably you couldn't see early on in the season. So I expected them to start well, and that's what I saw on the highlights.
Ross, you've then got to talk about the fact that Nicky Clark almost converts his free kick, but then we get a corner whipped in from Blair Spittle up the other end, and Nicky Clark's the man to score the own goal. Obviously, it was a quick free kick, and he's caught out, but it's a bit unfortunate to be on the wrong end of the corner for Nicky Clark.
I know, it's one of those, isn't it? If he scores that at the other end, it's a good finish. But it's just one of those. It's a really good corner from Blair Spittle. It's coming in. There's not a lot you can do with that. If you get a touch on it, you're maybe in trouble. So, I felt a bit for him, but yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? You just don't want to be the one to put it in the back of your own net. But good corner.
I've got to come back to yourself, Alan. For Kai Rowe, should he have seen red? He was already on a booking and he's made a silly challenge in the first half. Should he have been seen red, or was no contact in it for you?
No, I don't think there's enough in that for a second booking. I know the players on a yellow card and everybody was screaming for it at the time, but I thought it was just a come together with dubious contact at best. It's a physical game. There's coming together. That it's never a booking for me, and it wouldn't even be people appealing for a booking had they not already been on a yellow.
I think that's what they were trying to do there, Ross, wasn't it? The fact he was already on the yellow. They were trying to appeal to get him to be sent off rather than actually waiting for the contact to be decided by the referee.
Exactly. I mean, you get that in the game, don't you? Now, like, players are quite, they're quite clever about knowing who's been booked and stuff like that. For me, I watched it a couple of times. Honestly, it was like it was a tiny amount of contact. And as Alan says, it's like you've got to have a bit of contact. It'd have been very harsh. So no, for me, it wasn't a booking, so it was the right decision.
We then saw a change at half time for St Johnstone. They changed the goalkeeper. Was that tactical? Were they trying to get a new goalkeeper in? What was that about, lads?
I don't think it was tactical. To be honest, I'm not sure if they managed to find out the reason. I think it was maybe it was an injury because it was their second goalkeeper that had to come on. But I didn't find out. I didn't think we found out the reason for that.
No, I didn't see it either. Where's Connor, the banana man, today? So Connor's obviously going to be in the background of today's show. He's not dealing with Connor inadvertently got himself on the reaction pod for the game against Motherwell. He tried to do some editing and ended up in the pod, so he's taking a back seat. He's going to be in the background today. But then we obviously have to talk about the fact that St Johnstone then got a penalty, Alan. It was it Nicky Devlin was pulled down. Nicky Clark even was pulled down by Devlin, and St Johnstone got a penalty. Correct decision?
I think it was probably the softer variety. I think that these challengers are in the box and quite often go unpunished, but it's a foul. Probably anywhere else in the park, you don't complain if it's a free kick, but you look on it on a different sort of light when it's in the box, and you think that's harsh just because of the consequences of it being a penalty. But I think you've got to say it's a foul, albeit soft.
Ross, do you think players are actually going to learn and stop pulling the jerseys of their opposition? Because I think that's obviously going to be a big factor for penalties this season, is the fact that players keep doing it. And with the introduction of VAR and VAR obviously catching it, players are going to continue to be sent off for it. Not sent off, penalties are going to continue to be awarded for these instances, because it's obviously stopping the attacker running forward. You can see that he pulls him and then lets him go as he's getting to the ball, and he obviously falls to the ground. But what's it going to take for the players to stop doing this?
Well, this is the thing, right? And so I don't know. I kind of look at it from a player's perspective, right? See, if you get a handball, sometimes the player isn't always trying to handball it, right? It's just bad luck, right? And it's not the best way to get a penalty. You sometimes feel sorry for the player, but it's interesting, right? See, when we go on to these other matches over the weekend, this is now a theme. So this pulling of the jersey is just happening like all the time, and as Alan says, it's a foul, but also it's not accidental. It's absolutely deliberate, and it's quite, to be honest, it feels a bit, like one of the things we need to stamp out in the game, a bit like diving. So it's interesting how much it goes on. But for me, by the time, I think it was Cameron actually that Devlin managed to grapple down, and by the time he'd kind of got to him, they were both on the floor. It was a bit of a, and I was watching back where the ball came into, and this is why I think it might have been a penalty as well. That ball was coming to Cameron. That was the other thing. He was spot on to get a header on it. So it wasn't as if the ball was getting played away and, kind of they were off the ball. It was absolutely coming to him. So any touch there is kind of, a foul. So for me, right decision and a penalty.
So obviously then St Johnstone convert that penalty, and you think, can they actually get something out of this game? But then Beningame takes the game into his own hands, and he starts running through. And as he's running through, he lays a great pass to Vargas, doesn't he, Alan? Vargas just has to stay calm and composed and put that at the back of the net.
Oh yeah, it's a very good finish by Vargas, but the goal's made by Beningame. That's what you want to see from midfield. You want to see somebody take the ball and go and commit players, and St Johnstone will probably look at they should do better. You don't want to see a player run through your defence like that, but rather than just see the lights and try and take the glory himself after that run, he spotted the pass, executed it really well, and gave Vargas a great chance that he's absolutely taken. Going back to what Ross is talking about, shirt pulling and being smart, players are always got to want to be touch tight, and have a wee bit of hold on their jersey, but once the player starts running, they've got to be sensible enough to know let it impede. You want to know where players are. If you're watching the ball and no seeing sort of where a player is being touch tight, it's something that'll never go out the game. But players just seem to take a grip of their jersey and just keep it when the players starting to try to run, and that's just stupid. There's too many cameras. You've got VAR in there, and you're just not getting away with it. There's no being clever about it because the referee's looking in another way, because there's somebody watching for the stand and getting the referee a shout. So players do need to smarten up.
This is going to be that, as you're saying, even if the referee's not looking in that direction, VAR's going to catch it regardless, aren't they? They're going to see it, because obviously there's that many cameras in the stadium that somebody's going to get the angle that they're going to pull it back to the monitor, and it's going to be given because they're probably warned. You see a lot of times that players are warned more than once about the shot pull, so it's not always given on the first instance, and then the referee will give it maybe on the second or third. But I think it was the first one that we actually saw that the referee giving it, because, as you said, Ross, he was there for the ball, and then he's pulled back, so he's obviously stopped a goal scoring opportunity. But then is that going to be a factor for the rest of the season that they need to wait and see what happens?
I mean, listen, I mean, as I say, I just think it's something that, as long as they're consistent. So when we come on to the other games, it's interesting. We've got a couple of other penalties, both for the same thing in a couple of the other matches. So I think maybe, that way sometimes they make these decisions and then they all do the same thing at the same time, maybe after a referee's sort of, review or whatever. I think maybe this is something that we're going to see, that they're going to try and stamp it out. And as I say, I mean, for me, it's probably one of the things, a bit like diving, and again, as long as it's clear, it's not as if it's difficult to stop doing it. But yeah, it's something that, just a little bit, it's clearly it's a habitual thing now. So maybe we'll see more penalties and then it'll cut it out. Don't know.
There's a comment there from Wolf. Vargas is Dessers in maroon. Shanks wait for a tap and once again the bell end shoots. Lucky him he scored. Alan, should he have made it 3 though, Vargas, because he was through at the end of the game and he had an opportunity and the goalkeeper made a great save, but should he have made it 3?
He probably should have, but I thought Josh Ray was out very, very quickly. Josh Ray is a big imposing keeper. And I watched him play at Airdrie last season, and he certainly knows how to make himself big and imposing when he's got an attacker bearing down in goal. So, yeah, probably you want to see Vargas scoring that, if you're a Hearts fan, but I think you've got to credit keeper. I thought it was a very good save.
No, it definitely was a very good save, and obviously then he had another opportunity being ran through, Ross, but he was cool enough to take it to the corner and just try and see the game out. It's obviously a good play by Hearts. They're obviously trying to get a win on the board and try and get off the bottom of the table. Do you think they deserved that win yesterday?
I think so in the balance of play, and sometimes it just comes down to the fact that they got the ball in the back of the net, once more than St Johnstone, and sometimes it's just the ability to score that extra goal because there wasn't like a lot in it. I thought they both played quite well. I think St Johnstone, they've had a couple of decent results. Hearts are obviously now maybe on, just starting to see a bit of form. New manager playing some good football. I mean, I think I thought Kenny Vargas was good today, and sorry, is that yesterday? I'm getting confused now. Yeah, yesterday. And the problem with Shankland is though this is now a problem because he had a chance. I think first couple of minutes and he missed. Right. Yeah, the other way around is do people want to now pass it to him, or are they thinking actually, not thinking he's going to score anymore? So this is where the team dynamic might change. So it's kind of I don't know. It's there's a bit of a question mark with Shankland. I think around where does he go from here because he hasn't scored. As far as I'm aware, he's not even scored this season. It's astonishing. He might have a goal that I've missed, but it's one of those. When is that dry spell going to end for him? But apart from that issue, I thought Hearts played well. And yeah, it was a really good run into Vargas, and I think maybe Hearts are onto a bit of form now.
Definitely is becoming a problem for Hearts, Alan, isn't it? The fact that Shankland can't get a goal. He seems to be in the right positions and he's setting up the goals rather than scoring them this season. But obviously, with the amount of goals he scored last season, you'd be expecting him to finish the chances he's getting. It's just not happening at all for him this season.
No, it really hasn't. And it's hard to put your finger on exactly why it's not happening for Shankland, but that probably speaks a lot to Hearts' problem this season. They've had to find a different way to relying on Lawrence Shankland scoring 30 goals a season. They've played pretty much everything through them last season, and that's just not working this season. And they're having to go and ask more the guys like Vargas and the other guys up front. So, that's taking a wee bit of adjusting, and it's cost Naismith his job. Neil Critchell's in there now, and you'll probably see Hearts just stem the tide a wee bit and then start picking up points. Much like Simo Valentini's done at St Johnstone.
Right, let's move on to up to Paisley now. So St Mirren v Ross County. Ross, should County have had a penalty? There was right at the start of the game, the ball struck Alex Golgich's hand in the box. Should that have been a penalty?
I was saying this about handballs in the box, and for me, it's a harsh one. you know, and this thing about the you know, hands now is it ball to hand or hand to ball? I thought it was ball to hand. I didn't think he was trying to do anything to, you know, any sort of foul. So for me, not a penalty. But you know, again, these are difficult calls.
Well, obviously we were talking about one penalty, then we go up the other end and there's a penalty against Eli Campbell. He's another shirt pull. That a fair penalty for you,
That's
Alan?
it.
Much like I said about the last one, you know, I think if you're pulling the shirt in the box, you know, or you're pulling the shirt in a halfway line, you know, it's a foul. You know, you can complain all you want, but you know, if you're impeding a player from moving freely, then that's a foul. So I don't think you can have many complaints. You know, you can talk about where it's soft or not, but a foul's a foul, and you know, the penalty was the right call.
Well, Eli Campbell saw his grace has been saved by Ross Laidlaw when Greg Kilty hit a penalty, and he's managed to save it with a trailing boot. Ross, obviously, that's then kept them in the game and given St Mirren a bit of a downbeat that they've missed that penalty. But how did they then recover in that during the game?
It's not easy. It's not easy to recover from. You know, in terms of sometimes you sort of dip. I thought. I mean, it was quite a close game. I think you could say St Mirren might have had the edge. They had a couple of really good chances. You know, particularly some headers in the second half. But you know, Ronan Hale came on for Ross County, and you know he himself had 3 or 4 chances. He kind of gave them a bit more up front for Ross County. So it wasn't a one-sided game. It was a bit of ebb and flow to it. Laidlaw had a really good game. There was a couple of other chances in the second half. You know, I think there was a header he tipped around the post, maybe another one that he saved. So yeah, I think for me, probably looking at it, I'd have said a draw was a fair result.
You know, you've got to say, obviously, Olasanya and Ayunga had some great opportunities, Alan, to actually get themselves on the score sheet, and Ross Laidlaw was just a man possessed. He just was not letting the ball go in the back of the net. How did these teams bounce back from this? Because obviously, that's obviously nothing each draw that they've not been able to capitalise on. As you're saying, Ronan Hale, great couple of opportunities at the end of the game. He had 2 great opportunities in the last couple of minutes, and neither team could take it. But how do they move forward and move on to next week?
I think 2 teams will look at it very differently. I think Ross County would have been quite happy to get down to Paisley and get a point against a St Mirren team that's been doing very, very well. I think St Mirren probably huffed and puffed a wee bit. You know, they had chances and they just weren't quite at it. You know, I think they played some decent stuff at times, but you know, it just seemed to lack maybe a wee bit of intensity, that wee bit of quality. You know, Olasanya, I think I've got that pronunciation right. You know, he's been a thorn in the side there defences, you know, for months. You know, and it wasn't quite happening for St Mirren yesterday. But I think they'll be ones more disappointed by the result. I think Ross County will be reasonably happy to chalk up another point and another penalty save for Ross Laidlaw.
You've got to agree with that, Ross, don't you? That Ross County are probably the happier team there to come away with a point. St Mirren had a good few opportunities to put that game to bed and just could not take their chances. There was a few opportunities. I think it was Mandaron had an opportunity and he blazed it over the bar. They just could not seem to get the ball in the back of the net at all.
Well, that was it. And, you know, I mean, Olasanyas had got 6 goals this season, so he's having quite a good season. But yeah, it was just one of those nights for St Mirren. And as I say, it wasn't all. I think St Mirren will be obviously disappointed. They were at home, probably on the balance of it, probably be, you know, it's 2 points drop for them. But you know, Ross County came onto it late on. You know, they were still in the game. They could have actually snatched it through Hale. So no, I think it's good for Ross County, undefeated in the last 3 games. They're proven to be difficult to beat, to be honest.
No, they definitely are. So we'll go to one of the games from today then. Alan, so obviously Dundee versus Hibs, quite a good game this one to watch, to be fair. Dundee started out the stronger of the 2 teams, had some efforts from Dalby and Middleton, but they couldn't convert. But Lewis Miller, he had that opportunity right at the start. Good bit of play down the left from Hibs, sorry, and Miller obviously could not sort his feet out. He couldn't get the ball in the back of the net, but it was just a bit of bit of a tangle of legs there, to be fair, Alan.
It was from the very, very little I've seen in the game. It was a bit of a scrappy game. I expected Dundee United to come out on top. Habs have struggled all season. Even watching him sort of live a couple of times early in the season, they look a wee bit naive. This Hibs team lacks some street smarts. Smarts that teams like Dundee and Aberdeen particularly are showing. Hibs are probably need to look at some of the features of the St Mirren team, and really toughen up a wee bit. But tough game. It's been tight. Dundee United will be disappointed if they've not made more of Hibs struggling, but Hibs obviously got themselves ahead.
Ross obviously talking about Lewis Miller. Hibs get a quick free kick, and Obita whips in a beautiful ball because the Dundee United team are sleeping a bit there. Lewis Miller with a great header into the back of the net, and you think, how are they going to get on now? Because it just looked like the team went to sleep for Hibs, and for Dundee United, Hibs managed to get it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, it was good play, Lewis Miller's, ran, I don't know how far he got onto that ball, and quite honestly, it's one of, it's a kind of, a good striker's finish on in terms of his header. So that's really good play from a defender perspective. But the problem with Hibs is, though, these are they're just flashes. They just never seem to be able to then take it on and get another goal, or they just cannot put teams away. I mean, they were ahead against Hearts and they got pegged back. They couldn't score the other day against Ross County, and then they've done it again with to be honest, when they were on top. I mean, they were on top, and and they looked like, overall, it looked like they were probably going to get their first win of the season, and as I say, they just didn't move on from it.
No, they didn't move on at all, Alan, because it looked like Hibs were going to get a second when there was a very poor back pass from Dundee United, and they let Hibs get in, and they just couldn't convert the chance. But again, Dundee United playing with fire there, because it looked like they were just going to gift a goal to Hibs.
It's something you see more and more in the game now. Teams insistent on trying to play for the back, and they're playing themselves under pressure. Teams are going to get more and more joy out of a high press because everybody just wants to play for the back, play the ball back. And in this case, it was a poor back pass, and they really should have made more in that. But it is something at all levels of the game you're seeing more. And not all goalkeepers are want to deal with this.
No, definitely not, because as we saw as the game went on, we had another penalty incident, this time going the way of Dundee United. Karajevic, I think I'm saying that right, picked up a silly yellow about the 70th minute. Silly challenge, he's managed to get himself booked, and as Dundee United attack him with a free kick was whipped in, does he pull his man back? Does he pull his shirt? I don't know with the challenge. I looked at it a few times, I couldn't see what he's done, but obviously VAR gets involved, he's sent off, and then it's a penalty to Dundee United. Again, was it a shirt pull, Ross? Was it a tackle on the man? What's happened here?
Do you know what? If I watched it back, right, I would be getting paranoid about shirt pulling now, but I think we even said in the commentary there was at least two of them doing it. And I even think he wasn't the only one doing it on the same player. So he was definitely, holding, you get away with a bit of holding, right? He had his arm round him a bit. The problem was he was also then holding his shirt, or he sort of turned it from holding the guy to then doing the shirt pull. The shirt pull's more obvious, and so unfortunately for him, I reckon somebody else could have been the one penalised. But at the end of the day, he was the one that was spotted, and he's on a yellow. And I think, as I say, we've seen this consistency certainly this weekend, that's a booking and a penalty. So he's on his second yellow and he's off.
Alan, is that a harsh booking though for you? Obviously, he was already on the yellow, but is that a harsh booking, or is that a deserved yellow for Karajevic?
He's impeded him getting into the box and probably getting into a position to take a shot on. So I think, a penalty and a yellow card, you wouldn't complain about it, if it was his first booking. I think, again, like we were talking about Kai Reynolds, with that argument about whether or not he should be booked, that's only a debate about that booking because he was already on a booking. I think had he not been on a booking and you saw a yellow card flash for it along with a penalty, no questions would even be asked about that.
No, definitely not. But then obviously Sam Dolby with a great penalty just converts it with ease, and then obviously that gets Dundee back in the game. Ross, should Hibs have had a penalty at the end of the game again for a shirt pull?
Do you know? I don't know. I think it's another one of these. It's kind of, and this is the thing, isn't it? Is you start getting to the point where it's for the referees now. They've got to try and decide on what's the level that's acceptable. I see. I think when it's coming in particularly from a corner or a cross, and where the ball's coming in, the guy's going to be able to make. Referees looking at it saying that guy would have made contact if he didn't get pulled back. I think that's a much clearer case for a penalty. But I don't know. Again, for me, might have been a bit harsh, but maybe we just see some consistency on this, and then then the message is there, and then we're not having as much debate about it.
Alan, the referee seemed to make his mind up very quickly that it wasn't a penalty, and then took an age for VAR to get involved and decide that it wasn't a penalty. He could blow the final whistle. I think at that point we were at the 99th minute, going into the 101st. It was around that time that he just wanted to wait, so it was quite late on in the game, and he took a while for the VAR to decide that it wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things people hate about VAR, is the time it takes. If it takes that long to look at it, it's not clear and obvious error. And I think that's one of the things that would massively improve the VAR experience in the game, particularly in Scottish football, where it seems to take an eternity to actually get to a decision. There was no clear and obvious error there, and that should have been a pretty quick check. Understanding wanting to be thorough and get the right decision, but it shouldn't be taking that long.
What got me on that bit was the fact that the referee had seen it. He had a great view. He decided himself straight away it wasn't a penalty, and then VAR took as long just to decide. So he's seen it. He's got a great angle. You can see from the position he's standing, Ross. He's got a great angle of it. He's decided no. He's waved his arm straight away, but VAR took, I think it was 2 or 3 minutes to decide it wasn't a penalty.
And this is the thing. I mean, VAR. There's obviously times when VAR is definitely helping the game, right? Because it's going to, it will cut things out. I think it has cut it out, particularly diving in the box. You just don't see what we used to see with, people going down quite frankly, every other time a striker would get in the box. That's been cut out. Shot pulling, if they do start, stamping out on it, that'll also get sorted out as well. The problem is, are they clear what it is that that leads to a penalty? Because we used to be able to get away with shot pulling. Now it's like, it's clearly getting stamped out on, but it's not going to be every time you pull a shot in the box. So they need to start, just working on that. I don't know if there was maybe there wasn't maybe there was communication between the referee and the VAR that we're not aware of, and actually he just wanted them to check. And I think they've still got the ability to do that. So, I mean, I'd rather they did it than not if they're not sure. But I'm just not sure on that one specifically why the referee didn't just go with his own decision.
No, because the referee seemed to make his own decision and then decided that VAR almost decided that they needed to intervene in that point, Alan, didn't they? And obviously they wanted to try and take control, and the referee still agreed that it wasn't. But if they've obviously think it is a penalty, why would they not send him to the monitor rather than having him stand in the middle of it for 2-3 minutes?
It very much strikes me as they want to find something, but they've not been able to. But they've looked at it for 2, 3, 4 minutes, whatever it was, and not being able to find anything to then go and say to the ref, actually, I think you should go and have a look at that. Did you see this particular infringement? They've obviously not found anything in there to ask the ref to have a wee look at, or ask him if he saw that initially and made a decision based on that. So why it's taking so long? As I say, it didn't look something that needed to take that length of time.
A couple of comments to back up some of the points you've made here, boys. So, obviously, as you were saying, well, if someone's on a yellow, it shouldn't matter if they commit another variable offence. So, you're saying if it's someone on the park, I think both you said that if someone on the park's going to be a yellow, it doesn't matter if it's in the box or not. So, if somebody's committing that foul and they're on a yellow, it's going to result in a penalty, then it's another booking. Both agree with that point?
Yeah.
And then we've obviously, a point you made, Ross, so, Buffalo Alberts, I wish someone would tell Dessers. Obviously, you were saying about rolling about in the box and VAR and diving. He's rolling about in his arse and he's not obviously picked it up because he seems to do it every game. But obviously, we'll get on to the Rangers game.
We'll go on to that,
I know. We're going to obviously stay in Dundee for probably the game of the weekend, to be fair, in terms of the league action. We've got Dundee versus Kilmarnock. It started off quite fast, this game, to be fair, Alan, didn't it? And obviously, Watson had a good run down the ring. He's managed to down the wing. He's managed to cross it in. It looked comfortable from a cracking, didn't it? It just looked like it was his. And all of a sudden, he's dropped it, and Watson's put it in the. Bruce Anderson's put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the highlights of this game. I've just had a glance through the match report. But Kilmarnock have started fast by the looks of it. Kilmarnock said early in the season, we're not worried about the league. We've got to put all our eggs in the European basket. We've got plenty of time to make it up. We've seen in sort of recent weeks, Kilmarnock have started to pick up form. They've obviously got the focus back on the league. And that probably, it's no glamorous, that game, but it should have stood out as potentially one of the games at the weekend because it's two very decent teams.
No, definitely, Ross. Alan, sorry, Ross. It was just a bit of a blunder from McCracken, wasn't it? He's caught it and then dropped it in the same motion, and then Bruce Anderson has to do nothing, just tap it in the back of the net. He literally he's caught it from jumping and then dropped it, and you wonder how's he managed that. You just don't know how he's managed to even drop it. But Bruce Anderson's not scoring an easier goal all season.
Do you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, this is this problem of being a goalkeeper. If you make one mistake, because everybody's going to lose focus at some point. But for a goalkeeper, he's maybe taking his eye off the ball. There's a couple of guys coming in. I think he thought he was going to get contact, and he didn't, and therefore he braced himself for that, and the ball slipped. It looks like a howler. He's a bit unlucky, but to be fair, Anderson, his reflexes are amazing because he just taps it in straight away. He's almost expecting it, so credit to him. It was still a good finish.
Ross, I'll come back to you for this point. Should Dundee have had a penalty from the challenge from Ross McCrory? He seemed to come out onto the edge of the box and try to get the ball, and it almost looks like he's not stayed in the box as he clattered the man, but he got the ball, but it looks like he's not stayed in. Should we have had a penalty for Dundee?
Well, I mean, it's I think it'd be a bit harsh, but this is the issue around for me is when someone has got the ball or not is always a bit of a fine if it's really obvious, but there's a bit of did he get the man before the ball? Did he get the ball? I mean, he came out fast, and he's and he's made contact with the player and the ball, but. I don't know, goalkeepers tend to get away with that type of tackle, don't they? I reckon if he was another yard out of his box, we could have been seeing like a red card and a free kick, but I just don't think the referee was thinking he wanted to even get into that. He's just too far out of his box, if you like, to give it.
So Dundee obviously looked like they were going to get something back into this game, Alan, and all of a sudden Danny Armstrong whips in a great cross to probably the shortest man in the pitch, Matty Kennedy, who rises above and taps the ball at the back of the net. And all of a sudden, we're sitting 2-0 Kilmarnock, and you think, can they hold on? We're only in the first half, but they've made a great impact. And you think, is this going to be the time where Kilmarnock get another win this season, or are they going to fall apart?
Well, like you say, Matty Kennedy's not exactly an aerial threat, but what it does is point to the quality of delivery. It's not all about putting somebody that's 6'5" in the box and just throwing balls in. It's about putting quality into the box and finding the runs. And Armstrong's brilliant at that for Kilmarnock. You know, he's been a massive player for them for quite a while now, and you know they need more of that from him. You know, but credit to Matty Kennedy, it's got himself in a good position to be on the end of that cross.
No, he definitely did, Ross. And then obviously you think that's game over at that point because Dundee didn't look like they were going to offer anything. But then is it Adam Mummy goes up the other end, puts in a great pass to Palmer Holden, who again gets in between the two defenders and puts it in the back of the net with a smart finish. And you think game back on, we're only at the 41st minute, and we've seen 3 goals in a game that everybody probably wasn't expecting too many goals, but with 3 goals in, we're only at the 41st.
Well, the funny thing was, when I started watching it, right, and for me, this game is like, I've called it like the sliding doors game, because I'm sitting going, hang on, haven't Dundee played Kilmarnock at home? And I had to go back and check, and they have. And this is this wonderful thing about, you know, the Scottish football fixtures in the SPL because of the split. So I think it was 4 weeks ago, Dundee played Kilmarnock. So we had, you know, we know we had the reverse result. So I was kind of already thinking, okay, this is Groundhog Day, but role reversal. So as you say, we've now got Kilmarnock 2 up, whereas last time Dundee were 2 up, and then Palmer holding, really good header, and then you think, are they going to do to Kilmarnock what Kilmarnock did to them? So and we know what happened next.
There's a good question for you then, Ross. Why are Dundee playing Kilmarnock at home twice in the space of 3 weeks? It's just obviously a weird way that the fixtures have worked into it, that they've got them like almost back to back. Within 3 weeks they're playing them, and obviously we've seen it was 3-2 in one game, and then the reverse fixtures 3-2. But it's just, you wonder why the fixtures have worked out that way.
They briefly mentioned, I was trying to find that out and I couldn't see it, and I saw some of the others are like, the Hibs Dundee United game was a reverse fixture from about a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but that's a reverse fixture. But this was the exact same one, but they just briefly mentioned, so they, you know, obviously they do the fixtures for the whole season, and it was something to do with Dundee, and maybe it's because they have to not, maybe they can't play at home at the same time as Dundee United, but whatever it was, this was the only time that Dundee could have Kilmarnock again at home. So there was it was some sort of fixture scheduling issue, but just really funny how it turned out to be the reverse of the previous score.
No, definitely, because then Alan, obviously, Adam, when he gets a short corner play to him again, whips in a great ball, and Jordan McGee's on the end of it this time, and he gets almost a deflection, the ball's knocked up, and he gets it the second bite of it, puts it in the back of the net, and you think game on. Kelly have obviously lost a 2-goal lead. Dundee are back in it at 2 each, and it's game on at this point.
Yeah, and that's just important to go and be attacking set pieces when they come into the box. You know, Jordan McGee's got first contact on it and kept it alive. You know, and maybe it's been a bit scrappy in the end, but you know, the fact that, you know, the attacking players actually got first contact on it, you know, is something we always lament when we're watching Rangers. You know, that's something we don't do is get first contact on the ball. And you know, Dundee are a team that are dangerous for set pieces, and Jordan McGee's, you know, going to be a threat. You know, he's done really well. He's kept the ball alive, you know, and he's finished off. You know, might have taken two bites at the cherry, but they all count the same if they hit the back end of the net.
No, definitely, because then obviously we see the fact that Scott Tiffany comes on, and it's almost his first chance, Ross, isn't it? He almost gets a goal with his first chance. I'm sure he hits the post, and you think that was almost a great impact sub for Scott Tiffany, because he comes on and just obviously looks like he's up for it. But then you get a nice ball from Mulligan, who runs down the wing. He plays it into Larkesh, and he just hammers that into the back of the net, doesn't he? And you think, there you go. There's the revenge for the previous fixture, because he makes it 3-2.
It was honestly, it was amazing. I mean, I wish I could have watched the whole 90 minutes live, because I mean the last game was good, but I think this one might have been a bit better. And you know, and I mean, you're talking about Adewale with the crossing for the two previous headers, and you know, to be honest, if you look at the games over the weekend, actually there was quite a lot of really good cross balls in for very good headers. You know, this is something we used to do 20, 30 years ago. It was British football, and all of a sudden nobody does it. When was the last time you saw like 5-6 headed goals in a weekend? I thought it was great to see. But as you say, you know, Tiffany's come on, Dundee are all over sort of Kilmarnock in the last sort of... They seem to be taking more of a hold of the game in the last 10, 15 minutes. But again, the winner comes from Larkish, 94th, 95th minute. Last time Kilmarnock, it was, even later than that. It was really dramatic late stuff. But, dead entertaining, great reaction from Dundee. And to be fair, that's them up to 6, and they're playing well.
Alan, how did Kilmarnock turn this around? Because this is another game this season where they've not been able to hold on to the lead. Obviously, they went 2-0 up and they've not been able to hold on to it. What does Derek McInnes do to change this? Because obviously the reaction they had against Rangers, and then they've gone into this game against Dundee and they've not been able to hold on to the lead. What does Derek McInnes do going forward?
I actually don't think Derek McInnes needs to change too much. I think you just need to keep their heads down, keep working. They're going and they scored 2 goals at Dens Park and obviously came away with nothing from it. But they are a threat. They're scoring goals. Just need to tighten up a bit back. They've had some daft fouls that they're giving away. They need to sort of cut that out just to increase the focus. But Kilmarnock's results have been improving lately. And they have to just keep chipping away and just start building some momentum. It's difficult for teams in that sort of mid-table area to get a run of 6, 7, 8 games without defeat. But what they have to do is start just getting them a run of games where they're playing well. They're competing and staying in games. And Kilmarnock will be fine. I'll be very surprised if they're not in the top 6 by the time the league splits.
I was just about to bring up that point there from Wolf. That's probably the biggest thing that Derek McInnes can take away from that game is the fact that they didn't get a player sent off, because that's been a massive thing for Kilmarnock this season, is the fact that the time and time again they've been leading in games and all of a sudden I think is it Joe Wright right now that leads the way with red cards for Kilmarnock. Just
that's a name you can remember.
He just cannot seem to keep his name out of the referee's book, but that's got to be a thing that's costing Kilmarnock results this season, Ross, isn't it?
It's a shame for Kilmarnock because they were really good last season. It was great getting into Europe. You knew probably early doors in the season with some European matches and some travel, they weren't going to be able to start the same way maybe, but and they had a bit of a stutter there. But they seem to have been getting into a bit of a stride now. As Alan says, I think Derek McInnes has got them well set up. They're hard to beat. They were actually very unlucky. I mean, they played really well, against Dundee. So it's actually quite a tight competitive league. I mean, all those games were either draws or people winning by one goal. There's not this there's no like whipping boys at the bottom. We've not got someone stranded at the bottom that everyone's beaten by 3-4-0. You don't, and you can't pick a winner very easily in a lot of the games. So it's good. It's good for the game at the moment.
You talk about it being a tight league, Ross. I'm just looking at the table just now. Dundee moved into 6th place and they're only 4 points off the bottom of the table. Which shows
Absolutely. This is the thing, isn't it? It's we know what it's sort of normally like, and there's normally you start getting this kind of 3-tier thing where you get particularly Rangers and Celtic usually, getting a bit of a gap at the top. Then you've got a number of teams going for the European places, and then you've got a few struggling at the bottom. But it's a lot closer. And I was just looking at the last 5 results after those ones from this weekend. So apart from Celtic and Aberdeen, between 3rd and 12th, then all the teams have either lost 2 games out of the last 5 or 3 games out of the last 5. So there's not a lot of range. They've all just lost either 2 or 3. So it really is tight.
Couldn't get myself off mute there. Our resident SPFL host Connor's giving a question in the background. I'll take this to you, Al. Obviously with the quality of some of these games, should a TV company like Sky or Premier Sports not be picking up these fixtures? Because that was a great game today, and obviously it wasn't on the telly because the Rangers game was on, but that was a great game that should have been shown on the telly.
Well, listen, definitely, given the last 2 games have been 3-2, Dundee Kilmarnock, next time our game comes up, and they're looking at fixtures to put on TV. You know, they're obviously looking to visit every ground so many times in the season. So Dundee will be Kilmarnock Dundee the next couple down at Rugby Park, but you definitely like to think they'd be getting looked at. Obviously, if they're travelling, you know, the TV companies will probably pick it at sort of 12 o'clock on a Sunday and make it hard for Dundee fans to travel. But, you know, it would definitely be plenty of value for him putting good games on TV.
Right, Ross. I'm sorry to say, but now we need to talk about the game yesterday at Hampden, unfortunately. So, I wonder about the game. So obviously, we got to talk about the fact that the first cup semi-final game, Aberdeen and Celtic. Obviously, Aberdeen coming off the victory against Rangers, winning 2-1. Celtic beating Dundee, drawn 2 each at Parkhead. You thought this was going to be a great game, Ross, but unfortunately, didn't turn it that way.
No, and so, you know, in some ways, I mean, the result's brutal, and the game itself was not brilliant, but from an Aberdeen perspective. But the thing is, you know that way you always have to take the context bit, isn't it? It's whether or not, if Aberdeen were on a really bad run and this was like us, you know, just another bad defeat, then we're in we have a very different perspective. But you know, honestly, if I had to pick one game, the game to lose, I'd have picked that one out of all the ones we've had so far, because, you know, we needed to do something at Parkhead for once, you know, because we do get a lot of we do have a bad record and get a lot of grief about it, and you know, that was a big moment from this season, because it kept us obviously level pegging with Celtic. You know, like the Pittodrie game, you know, it's a 6-pointer in some ways. You know, it's always a big game, and a bit of pyrotechnics and fireworks makes it like a, you know, Monday night football in America. So, you know, it had everything about it. Honestly, I mean, it's a well, I say it's a compliment to Rangers, but I don't think any Rangers fan will take it that way. But Aberdeen bust a gut, right? They just they ran their hearts out. Like Nicky Devlin's covering, you know, the entire pitch, and you know, we can argue about excuses, right? Because it's not an excuse. It's more of a pass for a really bad result. I think the team were shattered. You know, you could see it from 20, 30 minutes in. Jamie McGrath's blowing hard before half time. Nicky Devlin, you know, was starting to slow up, you know, at times to get his breath. And it was, I don't want to pick on players. It's just, you could see the whole team they were all done together. That's why I could see it wasn't like, oh, you know, Jamie McGrath's not doing well or something. It wasn't just one player. It was the whole team. So, you know, we'll see, you know, Alex, if this is the bubble burst. I mean, we'll get Dundee coming to Pittodrie next week. But I do think this thing about midweek football is a really, really big issue, because I know we're going to come on to it, but like Aberdeen and Motherwell both won midweek, and you know, and they both look tired this weekend. So I think the midweek football, you know, it really impacts on the teams in Europe. So the only thing I'll say, because you could talk about all the goals if you want, but all I'll say is I think, you know, Jimmy Tilleen's done a great job in the team. They kind of get a bit of a pass. I don't think any Aberdeen fan's going to have a go at either the team or the manager, but we will be looking now with a wee bit more nervousness to Dundee next week.
And as you say, Ross, we will talk about the goals. So,
you don't need to, you know, we can skip it. You won't really count them all that.
No, listen, I'm not sure we've got time to count all the goals, but, you know, I watched a lot of the game in work, you know, and it was very much a tired-looking Aberdeen team. And Aberdeen will get a lot of stick, you know, they raise a game against Rangers and then fold against Celtic. But see if the two fixtures were the other way about, and Aberdeen had played and beaten Celtic midweek, and then came down to Hampden to play on the Saturday against us and get rolled over. You know, it could easily have happened. You know, it happens so many times in Scottish football. A team puts up a big performance against either half of the Old Firm, and then they struggle the next time. You know, the intensity that they have to raise their levels, and it's not because they don't try as hard against, you know, teams lower down the league. You know, Rangers and Celtic spend more money. You know, they should be harder for any of our teams to come up against. to play them back to back in 4 days, is massively tough on any team, and I think the biggest disappointment for Aberdeen won't be that they lost the cup semi-final. It'll probably just be the margin. But overall, it was just one of the games where Aberdeen looked tired and Celtic looked bang at it, unfortunately.
No, it definitely did, and obviously it was the first goal came from a great corner from Engels, and Carter Vickers put it in. But here's a comment for yourself, Ross. Is Carter Vickers climbing for that first goal for yourself, or is it just a good header?
Hey, what? Thanks for that, Willie. Because I wasn't going to get into this, but sounded like sour grapes, right? No, it's honestly spot on. I felt like I was the only person watching it that saw this. He was all over Jack McKenzie. He actually used him. He got on the shoulders of him, and up he went. So, again, it was funny because nobody complained. No VAR. There was just nothing. So again, I think it's because the team were that tired. It was that bad. I think there was a little bit of they just weren't even concentrating on thinking about appealing and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's an honestly good point. I don't think it made much difference in the end, but you just never know.
I think when you look at the second, you go, Alan, you go.
I think it was one of them where it probably was a foul, and again we hark back to talking about being a soft foul, but I think it's not went back to VAR because it's probably not met this a high bar they talk about for a clear and obvious error. The referee's obviously said he's seen it. He doesn't feel that there was enough there to give a penalty, and there's not enough there for the VAR to come and say, well, that's a clear and obvious error. Go and look at that again. So probably a wee bit fortunate they've not had that goal chopped off, but as Ross said, I'm not sure in the grand scheme of things it was going to do any more than delay the inevitable.
No, definitely, because then obviously with the second goal for Celtic, Maeda gets the ball through and he just runs through. I think it was 2 or 3 Aberdeen players. Nobody looked like they could catch him, but then when he got in the box, he had the opportunity just to stop, turn and picked out Kyogo. And it looked too easy at that point, didn't it? Aberdeen just didn't want to put up a fight. There was just nothing there to stop Celtic getting that second goal. And I know it's only the second goal, but they put the game to bed at that point, didn't they?
Yeah, I think having harked back to the game at Parkhead where Aberdeen went in 2-0 at half time and then came back to 2-2, I wasn't quite dead at that point, but that's a tired team. The space that Celtic had through Maeda when he ran through and then Kyogo found in the box, that's just a team too tired to fully track and commit to the press and following the runners. When they start moving the ball about, they do so at pace. The passes are early. They're finding players in space because they're moving the ball as quickly and moving it as early, and that just tore through Aberdeen. And if you're going to stay in a game in a semi-final and you concede the first goal, you've got to stay in a game. That Aberdeen ended up sort of conceding the second and the third before half time. Really gave him an impossible task to claim in the second half.
I think that was a big thing for Celtic in this game, Ross, was the fact they had the pace and they had the fresh legs. Like when you look at this Celtic team, they've got players in each position that can take off the bench and bring on, and it just obviously then gave Aberdeen the torrid time because Maeda was using this pace the full game and obviously scored a hat-trick yesterday, but then Kuhn obviously got in the score sheet, Kyogo, that Aberdeen just didn't seem to have any answers. I think McGrath had a shot, but just didn't even challenge Kasper Schmeichel, and they didn't seem to offer anything in terms of trying to get back in the game.
No, it was dreadful. And the thing is, I mean, you try. Sometimes you try and look on things, and again, it depends what's going on before. So I'm just looking at a team that, unfortunately, it was just so much, of a tired team, and it was all coming out in one match. I mean, the problem with the likes of, Celtic is they're so quick. They're a well drilled team, and when they come at you, they come in numbers, and they're very good at linking up. It was a lazy pass back that was intercepted for the second goal, and it was kind of from there. It was just actually a lot of the challenges were quite soft. They weren't really putting in a lot of challenges for some of the goals. So you could certainly see it. I mean, whether or not the team's like, that's them knackered and we see a downturn, I don't know. But it's interesting that it's after such a big effort at midweek. So I'm kind of pinning my hopes on that is the reason. But yeah, I just look at the likes of Duke and Keskinen, who are equally as quick on their day as some of the Celtic players, but even they weren't at it, and that's when you kind of know you've got a problem.
It's quite funny you say that some of the tackles are soft, because for Celtic's fifth, Valley and Kyogo were both wiped out of the game. They were wiped out. The ball obviously landed at angles and couldn't put it in the back of the net. But I don't think any of those tackles were soft. To be fair, they whipped them out. So
it's a mix of both, isn't it? It's like tired sort of swinging at them sort of tackles, and then tackles that were completely missing. But yeah, none of that. Yeah, that fifth goal. I mean, the whole thing was nobody was having a good game at that point.
No, I think it just showed, obviously, Alan, that there was a lot of tired legs. But Jimmy Tillene will learn from this. I think he's shown that he is quite a confident manager, and he's going to learn from this. He just needs to get the players back in the dressing room and focus on Dundee next week, don't he?
Definitely, and I'm not surprised Ross said if to give up one game, it would have been this game in a heartbeat. I think from what I've seen, it was maybe a wee bit naive, Aberdeen, just to shut up shop. When it's a cup game, it's a one-off. It's worth taking a risk in a cup game. But possibly, you risk getting damaged a wee bit by a heavy defeat, and maybe it would have been better to just shut up shop a wee bit. But it is also very hard just to concede possession against them and just sit in and defend, because that's also quite a risky strategy. So, do you think you'd have been better shutting up shop, Ross, or was it just not going to make much difference?
I don't think it would have made much difference, Alan. I think it was one of those where it was for me, it was quite clear even before half time. And I think again, Jimmy Tillene, he is a pretty perceptive manager, and I think he knew that the game was done at half time, and I just don't think he wanted to push them. Injuries, bookings, and all the rest of it. I do think he kind of said, "Do you know what, guys, just do what you can." There's not a lot you can do, and anyway. But just going back to that, the last message that came through, I think at the moment anyway, Aberdeen is, full of sort of a bit of confidence, and Martin was there is the confidence is there, the unity is there. We've not had this for a long time, and particularly with the team, the manager and the fans all in unison, selling out sort of, I think, the last 3 home games, and for some reason spending what used to be the biscuit tin money on some fairly extravagant, fireworks and stuff. So they are enjoying it. I mean, it's nice to be watching something happen that's better than normal. So I think for me, definitely manager team get a pass, but if we get back on and we beat Dundee, it's kind of forgotten about. I think if we drop points against Dundee, it's a different conversation. People will get nervous, but I think this is one we're going to move on from whenever he's, but unless you want to keep talking about it. But we'll move on from it, I think.
I think Aberdeen did try to shut up shop for the 5th goal, but it just showed Celtic's quality for the 5th and the 6th. They tried to shut it up, and they showed the quality to get it through. But we'll save your pain anymore, Ross, and we'll move on to the last cup semi-final. So the last cup semi-final was Motherwell against Rangers, and again, Alan, Rangers go 1-0 behind from looking like they were dominating the game and they were controlling it, and then one ball in from Lenny Miller, and Andy Halliday puts it in the back of the net, and Rangers are behind again.
It was a very good goal from Murrell's point of view. The sort of ball in was brilliant, and Andy Halliday's busted a gut and got in between the defenders, and we just looked weak. We really struggled defending balls into the box, and it's no surprise we see so many teams actually try and have a go. Teams can smell vulnerability about this Rangers team, and they're weak. They're not strong enough. They're not disciplined enough, and goals like that are not uncommon to see. especially with the momentum of how things are going right now. You know, Motherwell had a brilliant chance today, and you know they went and took it in the first half at least. You know, and then they've actually made it to half time. You know, and at half time, 1-0. You know, the fans are getting more and more hostile, and you know, it was a difficult point for Rangers to come back from.
I mean, I was doing the watch along, Ross, and I can't say it was a great time to be doing the watch along. But you've got to say, I think the fact that when that ball came in, Hefty ran away from it. So he's running away, expecting the ball to bounce away, and he's just left Andy Halliday free as a bird to put it in the back of the net. So it's obviously not done his confidence any good. The fact he's anticipated the ball going past and Halliday's there to tap it in, but it's just not done him any favours at all, has it?
No, and I think, you know, it's just another sign of a team that's still struggling to get its, you know, get that kind of unity and having that communication that they all know what each other are going to do. I didn't even pick up on that until it was mentioned, and I went back and had a look again, and it's more obvious in the replays. And I think for me, he's either assuming Buckland's coming for it, or he doesn't think Andy Halliday is going to reach it, and he's already moving off thinking it's going to be a goal kick. Whatever way, it's a really strange, it's a bit of a strange decision, and it's a bit like, you know, there's a wee bit of a question about his judgment on that one, particularly because, you know, they get punished pretty badly for it.
No, they definitely got punished badly for it. And Ross, obviously, the team didn't have the greatest reception coming off the pitch at half time. They were very loudly booed, shall we say, by the Hampden crowd, and I think they took that reception, but it didn't look like they were going to get back in the game at the start of the second half. They kind of struggled, and then all of a sudden, there was a great bit of play down the wing between Cherney and Barron. Barron's managed to get inside, and he's passed it to Dessers. He's put it in the back of the net, and Rangers are back on terms.
But it was really nice build-up play, you know, and Cherney was having a great game. And I think, and again, you know, it's kind of, you know, for me, if you go back to this thing about you know, the players that are on form, put them in, you know, just kind of support the ones that are playing well. But some of the ones that aren't, you've got to take them off. And I know, and we'll come on to probably, you know, what changes Philippe Clement made, but he's making them at times when he's already struggling in a game. I'd have liked to have seen a different team from the start. I think it left Cherney with a lot of the responsibility to make those chances. But you know, and again, Dessers having missed a sitter in the box and then going down, you know, after it as well. That didn't go down too well with the Rangers fans. So it's good that he scored, and he's got. And this is the you know, I can see I see it all the time that, you know, my brother-in-law's a Rangers fan, and I watch a lot of the games with him, and he is just, if he had any hair, he'd be pulling it out of his Dessers. You know, he's one of the most frustrating players I've ever watched. And, you know, to think he misses an easy sitter in the first half, and then a nice finish, you know, Conor Banner runs into the pass from Cherney, you know, he steadies himself, he slips the defender, and he's straight onto it, into the, you know, a snapshot into the bottom corner. So, I don't know, if I was Philippe Clement, I would be having serious words with that guy and trying to get him to play like that more often or take him out.
No, definitely. And then, Alan, we're talking about one player missing a sitter. We have to talk about another man. James Tavernier misses an absolute sitter at the back post. The ball's whipped across the face of goal, and he just blazes it over the bar, doesn't he? And I think that spelled the end for Tavernier this game, because then he was quite quickly taken off by Clement, and so was Dessers, and we got to see Danilo back in the team, as well as Sterling. But just showed how poor a game it was for Tav today again, wasn't it?
Well, you know, we're obviously been really harsh on him because he's believe he's had a very good season. So I'm still absolutely scunnered for reading any comments from him, you know, and it's
playing a lot of confidence, though, Alan. He's playing a lot of confidence this season. He's not dipped in form. You know, we need to give him that. Do you know?
That's the issue. You know, that's the standards. You know, we're looking at the club. You know, that's the captain coming out with that sort of lack of self-awareness. You know, it's all very well showing confidence. You know, but sometimes you've got to just be aware that you're not playing well, and if you're not playing well, you've got to be sort of reliable for your teammates. You know, and muck in and do the dirty work. But Tav is still trying to play like he was playing 3-4 years ago, and the legs don't seem to be there, and his decision making is becoming absolutely woeful.
No, it definitely is becoming woeful. I think you could see, obviously, the subs that were made by Clement to start to have a bit of an impact. The team start to gel a bit, and then obviously we had a good bit of play from actually Motherwell having an opportunity. We got up the other end of the park, Ross, and Czerny played a fantastic pass to Bayrami, who managed to get it over the goalkeeper. It took a bit of a deflection, but it was in the back of the net, and then Rangers got it to 2-1. But I think you could say the same for Motherwell as we did for Aberdeen. A lot of tired legs out there. They looked dead on their feet after 50, 60 minutes. They were done, Motherwell, and they were just trying to stay in the game.
Well, they were, and and again, you're probably always more looking at your own team, aren't you, in terms of what you're looking for. I think if Motherwell were tired, that's even a bigger worry for Rangers, because they couldn't really put them away. But I think for me the disappointment was, you've got Diamandi came on. I thought he was pretty quiet. I didn't think he added a lot. Danilo came on, and he's definitely still for me a question mark as to whether he's going to come on and be the right striker to take, maybe to replace Dessers, but quite quiet as well. And you're thinking, what, where are we? Where are they going to get to in terms of finding that right 11? Because he still seems to have a lot of question marks. But for me, that Bajrami's coming on. That's 2 goals in 2 games, 2 really good finishes. Czerny for me is still probably the strongest player. So in the team. So those 2 are positives. I thought Suter had a reasonably good game at the back, and maybe Connor Barron, but there was a lot of other question marks in today's game.
Just to bring up that point there from Martin, do we think Clement's on borrowed time, and how long do we think he has? I think he's been on borrowed time for a lot of this season, and that time's up. That he's seeming to get away with it getting into this final, Al, and I don't know how much longer we're going to see Philip Clement in the dressing room.
I think the half time, a lot of people are really feeling that it was the end. I think getting through to the final was papering over the cracks. I think the manager's actually spoke reasonably well recently in parts in his press conferences, talking about how it's going to be rocky. They're doing a lot of work. They're going to be getting better. But we need to see more evidence here. We need to see more on that park. And we've talked about Tav, we've talked about Dessers. And take this away from a Rangers point of view. Take it to any team that goes through managers. If you continually pick the same players that gets the previous manager sacked, you're going to eventually get sacked. You look at the problem Manchester United are having down south. You've got players down there that are constantly getting picked under every manager. The manager gets sacked, they come in, these players keep getting picked, eventually they get sacked. And it's happening at Rangers. It's happening in front of our very eyes. Tav, he's done so much for the club, and he probably won't be fully appreciated for what he's done until he's gone and, we're years down the line. But he's stayed too long. Connor Goldson stayed too long. John Lundstrom stayed too long. And Dessers has just never been a right fit for Scottish football. He's a big unity of guy. He's clearly a capable footballer. You look at some of the goals he's scored, but he's not suited to playing in Scottish football because he's not physical enough. And if a manager keeps picking these guys, eventually we're going to get another defeat soon. It didn't come today. They fought back and we've got into the final. But if we don't find a level of form, then we're going to turn up to Hampden and be at risk of exactly what happened to Aberdeen yesterday.
Ross, I want to throw it to you as obviously an Aberdeen fan looking in. How much time do you think Luke Clement's got in the Rangers dugout? Do you think he's on borrowed time, or do you think he's going to be secure for a couple more months? What's your perspective?
I mean, it's difficult sometimes, isn't it, when you get a foreign manager coming in, because we don't know as much about them. But I don't know why, but I just still have a feeling that Philippe Clement is a good manager. I don't know. There seems to be something, and I do think there's a bit more behind the scenes around whether it's keeping players in the shop window and stuff like that, or they're really worried about some of the newer players being injured because they don't have the same level of, backup to them. Maybe there's caution that I can see that is causing some of the issues. So what I would say is, I don't think the board particularly. I don't think they gave him an extension of contract because he was doing a particularly good job. I think it was a realization of that there's going to be a period of instability, and they wanted the stability with the manager. I think they've had a conversation with him, talked him through it, because he looks like a man who is, trying to shoulder a lot of that sort of burden. And yeah, I think going to January, maybe they're going to help him with the squad. But I'll tell you what he does need to do. Otherwise, he might still be in the job, but the results won't get any better. He needs to be bolder with making some changes. To Alan's earlier point, I think Tav and Dessers are now needing to come out of the team. I mean, it's just loyalty now for what reason we're not sure, but give the other guys a chance. There is no reason not to change and mix up that team. So I would say, honestly, I don't see him. I know it's difficult with everything that's going on. I think he's a decent manager. I think he needs more time. He needs a better support from the board. But he does need to be bolder. He's starting to lose people. He's losing the fans, and that's the bit. But if he does that, they've still got a good squad. They need it to come together.
No, definitely. So what we'll do then, guys, we're going to leave it there for today. So Alan, Ross, thanks for joining me. Ross, well done on your first show. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. We'll be back tomorrow for your afternoon rabble with Martin at 12:30. So from us, guys, thanks very much, and see you later on.